Hi, we are sitting here today chatting to Jason. He recently came back from a trip to Italy. Jason, tell us about this trip.
Hello, Fritz. Thank you for having me today. Yeah, we went and attended Interbull and ICAR. When I say we, I mean myself, Dr. Boppy, Hannah, and Donne. We are all geneticists here at SA Studbook. We attended the Interbull ICAR in Verona. Interbull is a subcommittee of ICAR. For those of you who may not know, ICAR is the International Committee for Animal Recording. They set all the guidelines and all the standards of how to measure our animals. When a new technology comes out, like MIR spectroscopy, which is a new field in the milk, they've gone and looked at all the different machines and how do we take the data that comes from these machines, standardize them around the world, and give guidelines to new users of how they should use this data and how that data can benefit the breeder at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, all the data we are collecting needs to be given back as some form of tool, whether it's a selection index or a new breeding value, to the breeders who have been collecting all of this data.
Okay, it sounds fascinating. Now tell me, what was the highlights of the two conferences that you attended?
Well, there were a couple of highlights. I think the first highlight was that for the majority of us, this was our first joint ICAR and Interbull conference that we were attending. One of our colleagues, Hannah Kruger, it was her first international congress. She also submitted an abstract, which was then accepted for a presentation. She then presented her work here at SA Studbook to a crowd of other researchers from other institutions around the world, and it was well received. So I think that really did assist Hannah with growing her confidence as a researcher here at SA Studbook. Other highlights were reconnecting with some of the industry stakeholders we are involved with, like people from Weatherby's or people from the Luke Group who manage the BLUP software that we use to provide BLUP breeding values for our breeders, as well as all the new connections that we made with young researchers or potentially researchers that we'd never met before, but work in the same lines and are working on similar projects. So the opportunity for collaboration really opened up by meeting all of these people.
It sounds fantastic. Tell me, how many people were in attendance at these conferences? Is it well received?
Well, this year was quite well received. Interbull was for the first 3 days, and then ICAR was for the last 3 days. So there was a little bit of a shift in the crowd, because Interbull is more for genetic evaluations and breeding values. That was around 150 people from about 30 different countries. And then ICAR is a lot more industry and data driven. So we had more people join. I think at one stage there weren't enough seats in the hall, and the hall sat about 350 people. So there were between 350 and 400 people. So yes, this year was very well attended. And I think it was a bit of a stepping platform, because later this year is actually the World Congress on Genetics Applied to Livestock Production, which is a once in 4-year one. So I think a lot of people were getting ready for that one as well.
And where is that going to be held?
That is going to be held in Wisconsin, America, this week. It is actually happening right now as we speak, just before the World Cup starts. So everyone that was in Italy and their companies, or they are doing research that is now at WC Gulp, have all made the jump across to America.
So tell me, what came out in the conferences that were really challenges that we are facing worldwide?
The biggest challenge, which was first presented to us at the Beef Climate Smart workshop that we had in Pretoria earlier this year, hosted by the ARC, the LRF, and by Studbook. That was like an introduction to methane mitigation. How are we going to measure our animals' methane output? What are the selection tools available to reduce the methane emitted by our animals? And that's kind of what the central point around ICAR and Interbull was this year. How are we taking this data, or some of the researchers who have been collecting this data for like the last 5 to 6 years have shown us the repeatability of measuring methane. What are the heritabilities and the genetic correlations with other traits? What type of scenario can we implement the methane measuring devices, such as a phase C or a phase D growth test? Quite a lot of stuff around methane. So it seems that methane will be the topic for the coming years. And we know that methane measuring is coming to South Africa soon as well as there was a lot of milk recording. So lots of new MIR spectroscopy, so they can read the wave frequency of the milk in order to identify fatty acids and the concentrations of the different chained fatty acids. And how do we include this measurements into our existing milk recording that we do already with a Foss or a Bentley milk composition machine? Lots on milk, lots on methane, quite a bit on beef, but more like countries that are new to beef recording. So it was interesting to see them go through the exercises that we at Studbook have been doing for the last 20 years, putting my hand up and saying, but what about myostatin and what about this? And got some very good feedback, which was great. But yeah, methane and milk, those are the two big components of this year's Interbull ICAR.
So you're going to bring some of that technology into Studbook's research laboratories and for the future, and apply it here in Studbook for the future.
Yes, that was the main thing. Those of us who are working at Studbook know that this methane story is coming our way. As I said, we attended a workshop in March with the ARC. They are going to be bringing phenotype machines to start measuring this. And I'm really glad that we've had this international collaboration going, because a lot of this was new to us, but I feel like we're now a little bit all of a methane boffin now at the moment. So it's really helped us get a better idea of when we start recording the data, we already have an idea of what to do with the data, instead of waiting 3 or 4 years for a large data set and then implementing changes. We can, as soon as the data starts coming in, we can start providing our farmers with feedback on that data.
Yes, so that is in the very near future something that we're going to see in our genetic evaluations, additional stuff going to come into the reports and so on. That sounds really fascinating. Thank you very much. And I hope that we will implement these things very soon, and best of luck.
Thank you, Fritz.